Hey there, this is James for James Shipwright Guitar and welcome to another video lesson. This lesson is a super important one because I'm going to show you one of the most important techniques which you need to know about as a guitar player. I'm talking about muting technique. We use muting techniques to keep the guitar quiet when we play. You may have experienced this kind of stuff when you play, where you get this kind of noise in the background where it's ringing. Now we're going to use muting techniques to get rid of that noise, and if this is something you're struggling with, you're going to be amazed at how much it can clear up your playing, and it'll sound more like this. See, there is no background noise, and that's simply because I've developed the ability to mute efficiently. I'm going to share with you today how to mute using your picking hand, which I'll pretty much call my right hand throughout most of this lesson. So if you're left-handed, you're just going to need to think of it the other way around. And left hand or fretting hand muting, I'm going to show you how to do that as well. Plus, I'm also going to tell you the #1 mistake which I see guitar players make with their muting at the end of the lesson. So stay tuned for that. Let's start by looking at how to mute using our picking hand. Now the basic idea here is that as we move the pick across the strings, the heel of our picking hand wants to kind of shadow the pick and mute the strings that aren't being used. To give you a really clear example here, let's say I was playing a note on the B string. You see my right hand is kind of resting on these strings that aren't being used. Now it can't rest on the high E string because there's the B string in the way which we want to hear, and we would use left hand muting for that, and I'll talk about that in just a second. This one here is keeping all the other strings quiet though, and if I was playing the top E string, it's actually resting on all of them, okay, deadening them off so that they're not making any noise. Now if I wasn't doing that, we'd get this kind of problem happening. Hear straight away all that noise in the background. A few things to watch out for. Some people kind of put their fingers on the body of the guitar here and sort of push their hand up a little bit and pick like that. Now that can work, I suppose, but you need to incorporate some kind of muting in there. I mean, what I'm saying is you don't want daylight between your hand and the strings because you're not going to be able to effectively palm mute. So you may find that you need to slightly alter ways that you play in order to mute well, but all I would say is it's definitely worth the effort because the transformation that you may see in your playing, it could be huge. So that's right hand muting or picking hand muting, or we may even call it palm muting. So how do we mute with our left hand? Well, there's a few basic principles to sort of bear in mind here. We don't want our fingers when we're playing a note to be right on their tips. We want them to be slightly flat, because what that does is that the underside of our fretting finger then will dampen off or mute the sort of neighbouring strings. So instead of getting this, okay, my finger's slightly flat, it's actually going to mute these strings here. The other thing is touching the above string with the tip of your finger. So if I'm playing the G string at the 5th fret here, what I want to do is as I play that G string note, you can see the tip of my first finger is just stubbing up against that D string. So that's going to keep it quiet. Now imagine I was doing a sliding kind of thing. Throughout that whole slide, my first finger is in touch with this D string. And I don't have to worry about getting this kind of thing there. With that background noise, which is just going to kind of slightly ruin the lick. So what's the #1 mistake that a lot of players make I was talking about earlier? It's doing this kind of thing. Okay, well, I'm playing with my 3rd finger and I'm bringing these fingers away. Now we really don't want to do that, okay? When we're playing with, say, our 3rd finger or our 2nd finger, we want to leave our previous fingers down. And one of the reasons for this is that it helps mute. If I'm playing this G string note at the 7th fret, okay, these fingers, because they're left down, they're actually helping to mute off those high strings. They may also be touching the above strings like I was talking about a moment ago. You can see my first finger is actually touching that D string there as well, so it's helping to keep that quiet. So if you're not used to doing that, just slowly train your fingers to get used to staying close to the strings, and you'll find some sort of muting benefits from doing that too, which will just help clean up your playing a lot. Just a really simple exercise. I mean, literally just take a minor pentatonic scale. I'll play it in G down at the 3rd fret, and just play across the scale. And as you go on to next string, each next string, just get used to your picking hand just following the pick across, so that you're muting the other strings as you go. So your right hand's kind of progressively covering more of those strings as you work your way across the fingerboard. When you get to the top here, stop, and using your fretting hand, just strum them a little bit like that, and you'll hear if there's any that you're not muting, you're going to get this. You're going to hear it. Okay, so this is a good way to test yourself. But don't forget your left hand, and you can see as I play across the scale, notice my first finger is kind of flat. It's not barring, it's just resting there because it's keeping these ones quiet that I can't mute with my right hand because I've got a pick here. So my first finger moves across, but notice it's still staying flat, keeping those strings quiet. And when I get to the top E string, I can check there. Yep, my first finger's resting on that, or just touching that B string, keeping it quiet, and my right hand's on. Now, you can sit around and practice your muting for hours if you want to, but it's probably going to get a bit dull. I reckon instead, just do your normal practice, your normal playing, but as you do, just monitor your muting technique. So, in other words, just keep checking up on yourself. So I think that's the best way to start learning to mute. Just keep checking up on yourself and correcting yourself when you're not doing it. Now, it probably won't be perfect at first, and it isn't the kind of thing that you're probably going to nail in 2 days, okay? But over time, you'll get it, and it won't take very long. The great thing about this is if you just get it like 5% better each week, you're going to start really hearing a difference. If you're overdoing it slightly at first, don't worry about it. I think that's a good thing. I think you're much better to be overdoing it a bit than not doing it enough, because you can always just lighten up or back off a little bit, okay? So don't worry about it if you're a bit heavy-handed at first. That's it for the day, really. Now you have a good understanding of how to use left and right hand muting. So put some time in on that. You'll never be sorry that you did. It's really time well spent, and it makes a huge difference to how your playing can sound. Thanks for being one of my members, and I really look forward to seeing you again in another lesson very soon. So take care, and I'll see you next time.